Welcome, everybody, to the Troubadour Show. Today, I have a special guest. We're going to be talking about the Mahabharata tales. I've been really trying to work on the pronunciation because there's like a real hard H or something when I've been hearing these podcasts I've been listening to. Mahabharata, can you say it?
Mahabharata.
Not even close. Mahabharata. Say it again. I can't.
Okay, so Bharat. Can you say Bharat?
Bharat?
Bharat. Bharat.
Bharat.
Yes, Bharat. And then just add a Maha to it.
Mahabharat.
Mahabharat. Actually, yeah, Mahabharat would be the right one, and Mahabharata would be the Mahabharata tales would be how we're pronouncing ours.
Oh, man. Okay.
So all the Sanskrit names have an extra A at the end. Right?
Yeah. So I've noticed that about the A. Okay, so let's get into this in a minute. First, I want to introduce you.
Yes.
So Kumar Abhinav. Am I saying that correct?
That's correct.
Like for real?
You nailed it. Yeah, that
for real?
you nailed.
Or is that like Americanized?
No.
Is that how they would, if they were in India, how would they pronounce it?
Yeah, it's slightly different, but you got it. Just 90% there.
How would it be in India?
Kumar Abhinav. So
okay, so there's just an accent.
Just accent and then a little bit faster. But I think that's why I said 90%. Sure. I would give you that. Yeah.
Okay, a little faster. Yeah. Okay, so we are in the we were cast in the roles of you're Bhishma, I'm Bhima in the
Mahabharata tales.
This is gonna drive me crazy, because I've been trying to do this. I'm so bad at accent like this. Like it's Indian accent's hard. So Bahar.
It's not even just the accent; it's the word. Right?
Yeah, it's like just such a. Well, I've been because listening to this Indian actor do like a retelling of the Supti, I think his name is. Or I'll put a link. It's a really good podcast series, and I've noticed some things listening to his accent that's really interesting about like the clipped vowels. Like vowels are very clipped,
right?
And I was like, oh man, okay. So and that's why it sounds so different, obviously.
Right. So
that's one reason.
So that's one reason. The other real reason is this: the English language does not have certain sounds that Hindi does.
Yes, yeah, that's
right.
That's
so you can't if you don't have those sounds, it's just there's no way for you to make that sound, right? So that's why it's sometimes
I'm just not used to certain things. Yeah,
you're not exactly. You can say that. So, I mean, with different languages, we find that happens, right?
So we're in this story. This is a production by Austen Shakespeare. Some people are a little surprised, but it actually fits in perfectly with what Austen Shakespeare is all about, which is basically timeless tales of the human experience and the human adventure, which this definitely is. And I had never, before being cast as Bhima, and I just want to say, I think the only reason that Ann Ciccolella, the artistic director, cast me as Bhima is not because I'm such a fantastic actor, but because I look a little bit like the size of me is a little bit in line with Bhima, who is the strongest man in the world, essentially. And I've seen images of him online, and there's one that does actually look a little bit like me, because a lot of them, he's like big and cut. I was like, I'm not cut. I have no definition to my muscles. What are you talking about? But there are some, and then the Peter Brooks version, I really like that version. That's what our play is based on. And he's not like he's tall, right? He's pretty tall. He's taller than me, I imagine. Although I don't know, I'm only 6 foot. But he has a bigness to his shoulders. He's like, there's something big about him. He feels big in the Peter Brooks version, and he's wild and strong. And
right. So I mean, I think you fit the role really well.
Thank you.
And I think you're strong as Bhima, because those of them, your audience hasn't checked out your workout video. They should definitely go check out your workout video as Bhima.
Yeah, I've never done a workout video. I don't think I'll ever do another one after this week. I just wanted to try because it was fun.
Right.
But I wanted to have you here to talk, basically tell me and the audience, but me really, it's my selfish to kind of learn more about the Mahabharata.
Mahabharata. How about you just say Mahabharata? How about that?
Mahabharata?
Yeah, Mahabharata.
Yeah, but once I'll revert back, I bet, when I'm in the moment. But I'm going to try correct me. Mahabharata. So I want to learn more about the story. It's the longest epic poem ever written. I read somewhere it's like 10 times longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey, or something crazy like that. It's huge, right? Is that right?
Right. It is pretty big.
Yeah.
It's written in Sanskrit, and so it's thousands of years old. And as any epic, it has evolved over a period of time. Now, this how true it is or it is not. Don't come at me and don't cancel me for saying this. But
well, I don't know who would cancel you.
Yeah, but a lot of the Indian history, since it's just such it's old and has gone through a lot of changes, don't know the exact same story. But as time progressed, a lot of the story has been passed through generation. So a lot of the kings and a lot of the empires that came in between have edited the story, right?
Got it.
So there are that's why. But overall, the story is complete, and each character has a background story. I mean, it's a real, true production, right? Like if you were in today's day and age, when you see a TV series, we see character development, and every character has some background that occurs.
There's some arc.
Some arc, right? There is an arc to each character. Here as well, there is an arc to each character, and there are quite a few characters as well. I mean, my character has its own arc, Bhishma, right? Bhishma Pitama, as he's colloquially known. The unconquerable
vow. I don't know which one it means.
So
I think it's like says it two different ways. Like when you're born, it's like you're unconquerable, but then later Vyasa says your name means dreadful vow.
So Bhishma is the dreadful thing, and the word translates to something dreadful, something strong, right?
Yeah. That's what Bhishma.
That's what Bhishma stands for. Okay. Bhishma, right? Something is Bhishma. Something is dreadful. Something. It means something strong and dreadful. It's in a more of a positive.
Bhishma, but I'm more happy-go-lucky.
I think it was more because of my hair and the way I look. But maybe I look like 200 years old. That's the other part of it. He was 200 years old. So that's what I saw.
You look old. You got the salt and pepper hair.
Like a 200-year-old guy. This is it. So. Awesome. So Bhishma has his own, and Bhishma, by the way, is known as Bhishma Pitama, which is grandfather-like or father-like, right? So he's that's his name because in the story, because he is over 200 years old. He's gone through multiple of these kings, and this
how many kids does he have?
He has 0 kids, right? That's the thing. That's the interesting part. We can talk about that character.
We'll get into the story in just a minute, but keep going with your character.
So the character, or his age, is over 200 years old. He's known as Pitama, as everyone respects him. And you'll see that in our story as well.
Yeah, the performance.
In the performance. At the Long Center. That's right. Both the sides, even though they're warring, they're fighting, they have immense respect for him. And when this character dies in the battlefield, they actually stop fighting because they respect him so much. So that's the importance of the character in the story. And he has his own arc that we'll find out, which is, again, he takes the vow to never marry, never have children. He doesn't have any children. But in return of that vow, his father gives him, I guess, a special power, which is to choose his time of death when he wants to die. So a part of me also says that when he dies, he's like, I'm done with this world. I just want to be done. What
is interesting, like I've always thought about this in poetry and literature, like this idea of living forever, immortality. I think the picture of Dorian Gray, like there's a lot of this in literature, and it's an interesting question. And I think we don't have to go off on these tangents too much, but I sometimes do this. We're getting to a point in our science where it's like the idea of living to 200 is not absurd.
Right.
I don't think we're there yet, obviously, but I would not be surprised if someone born within the next 50 years might be a person who would live 200 years. I think there's someone born today who will live 150 years for sure.
Right.
Pretty healthily too. Not like, what is the Tithonus? There's like a famous Tennyson poem, and there's like this Greek myth where this man Tithonus, I gotta look it up, I can't remember his name, but he's granted immortality, but he's not granted eternal health. So he just gets older and older and shriveled for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's like this whole thing. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like we actually healthy, although I'll take 10 years off. Come on, I'm only 39, man. I look like I'm 50. And, and so we got this, well, if I'm going to be 200, if I'm going to age at this rate,
right,
I'm going to like not be great by 200. It's like, oh my gosh.
I think that would be a special power if you think about it, right? Like,
yeah, that's so
like,
powerful.
hey, I can,
like all the wisdom.
All the wisdom. I can live forever, and then truly I can say I've seen some stuff in my life, right?
Yeah. As I get older, wisdom, man.
That is
so
true.
Big.
That is true. And I think that character, talking back to Bhishma, he has wisdom in his character as well. So I mean, he's consulted for everything that he does, and in the story, which we obviously, as you said, the epic is so long, we don't really see all parts of it because there's only so much you can show.
Yeah, we see a very small fraction. Yes. I mean, it's like a 2-hour production at most. Like 2 hours with intermission, I think, or 2:10 with intermission or something.
So so you can't really see that what was the importance of the character Bhishma, and every character is important. I'm not just trying to hype myself up here.
Yeah.
But he was the trusted advisor. He's seen stuff. He's gone through multiple wars. He's gone through multiple kings that he's been advisor of, right? And that's why, in this story, where he's a trusted advisor, he's the one who's raising the two kids together, two factions together, the Pandavas, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Kauravas and the Pandavas. He's raising both those factions or kids together. Pandava. Yeah, you're the good guy. He's the good guy.
I'm the good guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
Although we do some bad guy stuff sometimes.
Well, that's
kind of the interesting thing.
That is interesting part of it, right? That is the whole interesting part of it. The other thing that we are not showing, which is a huge part of Mahabharata, is Gita, Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, we have like a little...
We have a little snippet of it, but that is actually the most important and the most famous part of
the real core in Indian culture.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and part of the religion.
Part of the religion, part of the religion, because it's basically a sermon given by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, and it's more of a philosophical guide and a spiritual guide on how to live. So talking about the cultural significance of Mahabharata, it's the Gita that is there, and you will find what's the importance of Gita. So if you go to India and this is mostly North India, you'll find that there are small posters with kind of like the 10 Commandments, the same thing about, hey, what does the Gita say, right? And so you'll have like 10 points from the Gita listed out and at various shops or people's rooms. Yeah. I think I might have had at one more time.
Yeah, like how Christians will have certain religious
codes and
like
phrases or psalms. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So similarly, you'll find that from the Bhagavad Gita. There are two epics in Hinduism, Ramayana and Mahabharata, but there's less. I guess you won't find as many quotes from the Ramayana as you would find from Gita, because Gita is the core. I won't say core. It's one of the more important spiritual guides that people follow. It's very, very, I would say, practical, right?
Yeah.
One of the big things is nishkarm karma, means you have the right to do your duty, but you don't have the right to the results of your duty, right? So nishkam karma, right? So I think we talked about that in our play. Krishna.
We have a Krishna.
Obviously.
Great actor.
He's amazing. Yes.
Very
He talks about that, and that's because it's one of the most famous lines from Gita. And obviously, we can't say the whole Gita because it's like, I think 700 pages or something like that. I'm not sure. So that's why this epic is very, very long.
Yeah. So let's get into the story. So what we're doing, or what Anne Ciccolella, the artistic director of Austin Shakespeare, is doing, is she's taking, I think, a script from the Peter Brooks version of the Mahabharata.
Yeah, you're
getting better.
Yeah.
Mahabharata.
Yeah.
from that story by Peter Brooks, which was done, I think, 20 years ago or 30 years ago or something, and that is like a 7-hour show. Mm-hmm. And then it was turned into a movie, which is available for free on YouTube. It's really interesting and exciting. It's very stylized and cool. So Anne took that and cut out to kind of the core of it to give like 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours or something like that, of like the essential stuff, but having all the important, arcs. So I think this is a really good introduction to this story and getting some understanding of the Mahabharata.
Yeah, Mahabharata.
I just ignored the H.
Yeah, Mahabharata is good.
The second one, I just realized the H went away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're doing a good telling of that that'll give people a real understanding of the story. Right. So let's talk. So there are going to be spoilers a little bit, by the way. So sorry, but we're going to expose some things so that you have an understanding, because it's my belief that, this is such a foreign story that I personally would want to know a little bit of detail so I can follow and enjoy the drama, because there's a lot of drama happening. There's, there's characters that are hating each other, and there's characters that have relations, and there's a whole family tree. And so I just want to we don't have to give every spoiler. It's not about spoilers,
right.
But I just want to lay out the family tree. I want to lay out the basic story that's happening. So why don't you give us a little bit of, because it's
sure. As much as I remember, because even I had forgotten. As I saw, just to kind of give you a background of my history with Mahabharata, is as a kid, and I'm sure every generation of Indian kids goes through this, because every generation they see a production of Mahabharata on television. So I saw the very first
there's
one.
A new one for every generation?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's a retelling of the same story by some other director. So the one that I saw was 93 episodes long. It used to be...
How long were the episodes?
45 minutes, right? 45 minutes.
So, but that's 10 seasons of a
Yeah,
show.
But they were once a week. Remember back in the day when you used to watch shows?
I did, Saturday morning cartoons.
Saturday morning. This was Sunday morning, right? Sunday morning, 9 a.m. I remember the time. So it used to show up. And back in the day, there was one channel in India. I used to watch that.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that it was shown on television in a stylized version. And literally at that time, from 9 to 10, it was like a curfew in the city, because people would come and watch it. And this is 1980s India. It wasn't actually
a curfew. You're saying it was...
No, it was just because people were so stuck on seeing it.
They're so enamored.
They were so enamored by seeing it. It was literally, you would see, there was less traffic on the road. Shops wouldn't open at 9 a.m. because they would open at 10 a.m. because people were there won't show up to those shops. and this is 1980s India, economic revolution that has occurred in the 90s. Television sets were few and far between in a household, so you would find people opening the doors of their house and putting the television out, and then just people standing on the road watching the TV. Or back in the day when you used to have televisions on, the dealers would put on their television dealer or shops would have multiple screens, so you're just on the side of the road. People are just watching.
That's a
TV,
good way to get people into your story.
And so
that's how it was. People would congregate from 9 to 10 on Sundays for 43 episodes.
43 episodes. Or 93 episodes.
Or 93 episodes.
So it ran for multiple years.
Yeah,
right? You can imagine that. So almost 2 years.
Just over and over.
Yeah, watching. No, it's the same thing. 93 episodes over, weeks, right? Every week, 50. So exactly. Almost 2 years, right? So, but talking about the story a little bit more in detail now. It's a story about, again, good and evil, right? If you think about it, that's mostly what most stories are, which creates drama.
Especially if it's religious.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is religion in this as well in the original story.
For sure, I think, yeah.
So there is this king called Pandu. He has a brother, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is blind. And and he has 100 sons called the Kauravas. Dhritarashtra is the king.
Dhritarashtra. Rashtra.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have to say this name. Yeah. I only have to say two names.
Your uncle.
Yeah, I just have to say Dushasana and Duryodhana. No, I don't even have to say Duryodhana.
Dushasana is your...
Dushasana is the only name I have to say.
You're going to beat him up.
Yeah, because
you're going to beat him up. You're going to beat him up, right? So
I was like, all right, I could say Dushasana.
Right. And so I don't remember the name of the kingdoms that these guys were part of. Sorry, I'll have to look it up. They're big kingdoms.
Mythic kingdoms or real historical kingdoms?
The actual...
Because in Greek, there's Thebes, there's Troy. Troy is supposedly historical, but it's mostly in this mythic kind of realm.
There are areas in North India where the names are found.
They find them.
They do find them. Another central character is Krishna. Krishna has his own backstory, how he was born.
So there's Pandu, there's
Pandavas, the good guys. Kauravas, the bad guys.
No, I'm saying the people we're talking about is there's Pandu, the character.
Pandu is the king, and Dhritarashtra is the other king. Pandu's side is called, and their brothers, right?
Yeah.
Pandu's side is called Pandavas. Dhritarashtra's side is called Kauravas, right? So Kaurav, I think they were the kings of Kaurav. I think that's the region.
Yeah.
So and they're kind of like
Capulets and Montagues.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. They're kind of like frenemies as well, right? In the sense because they're related.
So not Capulets and Montagues.
Yeah, so they're kind of like they're related. They are related, right? They are related because the family tree goes up to Dhritarashtra and Pandu being the two brothers.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember it. The
Mythology,
mythology, right?
That's what happens.
And the story is essentially of the kids, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, where they get into a fight, which is based on, again, the fight is based on who gets to keep the kingdom. And the kingdom is
although there's two kingdoms, so why is it one kingdom?
So
you have Pandu, you have Dhritarashtra.
A very good question. That's a very good question.
They both have their own kingdoms.
Right.
Now, our Dhritarashtra is blind.
Right, it is, and that is true. In the story, that is true. That was also true in the story. And his wife gets married to him without looking at him that he's blind, and she swears that I will also not see the light of the day, and Gandhari, and ties and covers her eyes with a tie.
Is she actually blind herself, or just?
She's not. She just ties her eyes.
She just ties the blinder out. Okay.
That also gives her special powers, which your character deals with later on in the story.
But not in our tale.
But really I don't think in our tale we're doing that.
There's a little bit of it with my brother, Yudhishthira, which I won't reveal. I think Yudhishthira, am I saying that right?
Yeah, almost. Yes.
That's my brother, so I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Arjun or Arjuna. We have to explain why there's not an A sometimes. But so yeah, I think he deals with it a little bit.
Right.
What you're talking about.
That's right. We can talk about that later.
Yeah. We don't have to spoil that part.
That's just saying. I don't think that part is there in our story, but
there is a little. Well, maybe not what you're talking about, but there's a little bit of this. Dealing with it. Yeah.
So the Pandavas and the Kauravas, main characters. Pandavas are the 5 brothers, and the Kauravas are 100 brothers. Right. Basically, there are 100 of those. They are led by Duryodhan. Duryodhan's younger brother is Dushasan, and he has a buddy called Karna. Karna is a grey character. It's actually another very fantastic character that is kind of grey. And
grey.
It's grey. His character is grey. He's good and bad. He is the son of Kunti and the son of the Lord's son, right? Like Sun is also considered one of the lords or gods in Hinduism.
So like Apollo for Greek mythology.
Exactly. Yeah. So he has immense power, right? He has immense power. He's supposedly very powerful. And in the original story, he had a shield and he had some, I guess, earrings that made him invincible. Kunti knew this. And when the war between the Pandavas and Kauravas starts, she goes and actually gets the shield and the earring for him that makes him invincible, right? Otherwise, he was invincible as well.
Interesting.
But that's the side of a character arc that exists for a character that is sort of gray and not really, really bad. And when I say it's sort of gray and not really bad, is the real bad characters, Duryodhan, Dushasan, they're
mean.
They're mean, right? They're mean.
Yeah.
And if you look at Hindu names of kids, nobody calls their son Duryodhan. Nobody calls their son Dushasan.
Are there Bhimas?
Yeah, there are people who will call Bhima is used as a noun, like, oh, I'm as strong as Bhim, right? And there is there have been children's stories written on Bhima because he's a fun character. He's a guy who's powerful, strong, does feats of strength. So there is whole character arc.
There was an Eddie Murphy movie in the 90s. I can't remember what it's called anymore. It's where he plays all these heavyset characters.
Oh, okay.
And so like he plays a whole family of big and there's one scene I always remember where the little boy or the young boy, is like doing something and he's like a big guy and he like is strong, and all the women played by Eddie Murphy are like Hercules. So that's the same kind of thing.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like Hercules, right? There you go. Hercules like character Bhima is. the root cause of the conflict in Mahabharata
between Pandavas and the
Kauravas starts with a game of dice, right? Mm-hmm. And which is again, I think, a lesson in don't gamble. Your elder brother, Dhritarashtra, he is a gambler.
No, my older brother is Yudhishthira.
Oh, sorry, Yudhishthira.
Yeah, right.
My bad. Yudhishthira is
that's the king, the father
Pandu's elder son. You have 5 brothers.
Well, no, okay, sorry. You said
that was my bad.
That's the father king. Just trying to keep this straight for all of us because it's new for me. Mm-hmm. And then Yudhishthira is my oldest brother who is going to lead us because he's the oldest.
So you have Dhritarashtra, you have Pandu. Dhritarashtra has 100 sons. Mm-hmm. Pandu has 5 sons. Yeah. So 5 versus 100. That's the end.
You got Bhima.
You got Bhima. So you know who's going to win on one side. And the fight is essentially between the 100 and the 5 sons, right? Yeah. Kauravas and the Pandavas, right? Yeah. And the fight starts because the Yudhishthira likes to gamble. Mm-hmm. He goes in and they invite him to a party and say, hey, let's do some gambling. And Shakuni, who is the uncle of Duryodhana,
Kauravas.
On the Kaurava side, he is a magician with dice. Okay. Right. He knows how to play dice. He knows how to manipulate it with his hands. And he essentially lures Yudhishthira to bet everything that he has. And Yudhishthira, his ego comes into the way and he keeps betting all his material possessions. Jewels, all his material possessions, and essentially also bets all his brothers. He basically ends up becoming a slave. And in the end, he bets his wife, which is a big no-no, right? How can you bet your wife? And so
particularly when it's wife of
five men, but he's like, you've lost all 5, and how can you bet your wife? Then there's a scene where we have their wife show up in the court, and Duryodhana says, okay, we are going to see you naked. So this is the Draupadi, the name of the character, their wife, and the actual act of her being stripped naked is called, in the story, is called Chirharan, which is essentially just taking.
Say it again.
Chirharan.
Chirharan.
Yeah, Chirharan.
Chirharan.
Yeah,
that's
which
the
is
act
essentially
of
the act
stripping?
of disrobing her, and she's wearing a traditional sari.
Yeah.
But there's another character arc which we don't explore in this in our version, that Draupadi had tied had basically tied Rakhi, which is which is what I'm wearing right here, a string.
Oh, okay.
String. This is tied by a sister to her brother. She had done that to Krishna. And the way she did it was, Krishna got hurt in his hand, and she took a piece of her sari and tied it on his hand. And Krishna is, I would say, one of the main characters. He's a form of God, Lord Vishnu. He's now taken a form of a human being. So he manipulates the whole thing. You'll see that, right? I believe that he's the central manipulator of things happening in Mahabharata, right? So she prays to him as a brother, and she's like, "Hey, Lord Krishna, help me! I'm being disrobed." And miracle, he basically makes her sari, or what she's wearing, of immeasurable length. Yeah. And in the end, Duryodhana just gives up.
Yeah.
And he's not able to disrobe her. So that's the miracle that happens. I mean, obviously, God's involved in it, or power of God is involved in it. The fight that happens is the bet that they did in the game was, when after the Pandavas lost. The final bet.
Yeah.
Pandavas lost everything.
Including Draupadi.
Oh, including Draupadi. And they said, well, we'll give you a chance to win everything back. And if you don't, then you go for 12 years into the jungle. And then on the 13th year, you're going to stay in exile. But you have to stay hidden. You cannot be seen. Yeah. If you're recognized by someone, then you have to go back do this 12 years. And then basically your life kind of is over, right? And till then, the Kauravas will own all your kingdom. The conflict, which is that they do fulfill the bet, which is, hey, they lose the bet. First of all, they lose that bet. They go into exile for 12 years. Mm-hmm. The 13th year, they're supposedly hidden, but Duryodhan says, well, I think we recognized you and you have to do the bet again. And they said, no, that's not what happened. So Duryodhan basically refuses to give them their kingdom back.
So in the story so that's not really in ours.
Yes,
too much,
but I'm just talking about the real.
No, I know. No, I'm glad you're talking about it because that's what I want is the backstory. I'm saying so that part's like we do talk about the 12 years and the 1 year,
right?
But I think there's like a stylized representation of that moment, which is cool because again we have to shorten the time. Obviously, you can't be up there for 22 hours. We could try, but right. I don't think anybody would want to. But so you're. So there's 12 years. On the 13th year, did the Pandava brothers actually get seen, or is it actually a lie?
No, so they didn't get seen. That's what the claim is, right? They said, we didn't see you. Nobody saw us. Nobody recognized us. We were in disguise. Nobody recognized us. And that itself is a story. And Duryodhana says, no, I know someone who recognized you, right?
So he's lying now.
He's lying.
And that's clear to the reader, the audience?
That is the claim that's made, right? Okay. Yeah, so that is the claim that is made. And it's conflict. He's like, oh no, I found it. And I think it was like the day the 13th day, the 13th year ended. That's when they reveal themselves. And that's where the conflict starts awarding. Basically, Duryodhana is a bad character. They don't want to give the kingdom. Yeah, he's like, I'm not giving your stuff back, essentially, right? So that's the reason they're
So what kingdom is it, though? There's two kingdoms. There's Dhritarashtra's kingdom and there's Pandu's kingdom. Pandu...
Hastinapur is one. I don't remember which one was the...
Is it because something along the lines of Dhritarashtra, right?
Yeah.
Is blind, and so his kingdom is kind of up for grabs?
No. Okay. The kingdom that is up for grabs is all Pandavas, right? Because they bet their kingdom.
So it's the Pandavas, it's Pandu's kingdom that they're going to inherit from Pandu.
Right.
That's the one that's up for grabs.
Yeah, and they have already inherited.
And so they lost, okay, I'm being silly. I get it now. So they lost that kingdom, whatever
in the game of dice.
In the game of dice. And then after 13 years...
They're supposed to get it back, but the guy's like, nope, I'm not giving you...
Yeah, I'm not giving you super wealthy and strong and powerful.
Right.
And they don't want to give
right. That. So he bets all his horses, kingdoms, cows, wealth, everything. And all his land, right, which is his kingdom. But then he doesn't get it back, right? Yudhishthira doesn't get it back because Duryodhan says, no, I'm not doing that because you didn't fulfill the bet, which was to stay hidden on your 13th year. You were recognized. I'm not doing that.
No, okay. So then that's how the fight starts.
That's the big reason of the fight.
Yeah.
There's one other thing that I would like to point out because we didn't showcase that. When Draupadi is brought into, and this will be evident in our show, when she's brought into the game of dice in the court, right?
After she's lost.
After she's lost. After she's lost.
Loses her to the Kauravas.
Right.
Kauravas. She's dragged in
by
one of the Kaurava brothers.
Right.
Dushasana.
That's correct. There you got it.
But that's the moment you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the moment. I want to talk about the motivation behind it. We actually do talk about it in our play, that Duryodhan is they make fun of him. So in real world, you can say he gets bullied a little bit by Pandavas because he's a big, strong, handsome guy, but maybe not as sharp, right? So he gets bullied, whatever that is. But the actual story, the big event is Duryodhan once is visiting the Pandavas, their kingdom, and he falls into a smaller pond in the courtyard without seeing it.
Okay.
And Draupadi is inside the house on a balcony. She watches it.
She laughs.
And she laughs at him and says, oh, look at that. A blind man's son is blind.
Oh, okay. So she's making fun of him.
She makes fun of him.
Yeah.
He gets really cheesed off on that. And so when he wins Draupadi, and he's like, now I will show you, come sit on my thighs, right? He's being a
That's what he says to her?
Yeah, but after winning her, right? There is
well, okay, but hold on. So he falls in the pool, into a pond earlier in the story.
Earlier in the story, we don't talk about that.
She laughs at him, says that he's blind man.
And he's like, I'm going to take revenge on you. I'm going to revenge on you.
And then his revenge is after he wins her.
Then he says, come sit on my thighs. And that really pisses you off.
So, but
because she's
why
your
the
wife
thigh
too.
thing? I still don't get the thigh thing.
I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like
is it a sexual thing?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
That's what I thought, but I was like, someone explained it. There's something else going on. I was like, what else?
No, it is. It is about.
Okay. It's
about,
like sit on my lap, baby.
Sit on my lap. Sit on my lap,
in front
baby.
of the husband.
In front of the husband. So it's an insult, right? It is
that makes sense. That's what I thought
at
first, but I was just like, what?
Right. So that really pisses you off.
Yeah,
right? Bhima gets. He's like, I am going to destroy you one day for saying this to my wife. Right?
Yeah.
So, and you take revenge. You do take revenge on him, and that part of the story is also very important. Again, Krishna plays a role there as well. We talked about Gandhari, right? The one who
Gandhari with the blind.
Duryodhana's mom, right?
Yeah.
And she has put, I guess, a cloth on her eyes, and
because she's married to Dhritarashtra,
and she's like, I don't want to see. Yeah.
So she's the matriarch of the Kauravas.
Yes.
So it's her, Dhritarashtra, their kids, their 100 kids, the Kauravas.
Includes Duryodhan, right?
Which includes
Duryodhan's the eldest.
And Dushasana.
Duryodhan and Dushasana is the second
Okay.
in line.
It's starting to gel together a little.
There you go. Yeah. So Duryodhan, you and Duryodhan are going to have a huge fight, and you guys are both very powerful. It's kind of
who's stronger?
I think you're stronger. Yeah. Bhishma is stronger, but Duryodhan is as strong as Bhishma. But Duryodhan is strong as you. Not Bhima.
Bhima. Okay. It's okay. That happens to all of us all the time.
That does happen.
Like, you were. I'm gonna call you out. You were late, and they're like, "Bhima's late." I was like, "I'm not late." I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm here." Don't get mad at me, Marga.
So Bhima and Duryodhan are gonna fight, but Duryodhan, when everyone is dead, essentially, Duryodhan's the last one left. In the story, he goes to see his mom. His mom says, "Come to me and take a bath." And after taking a bath.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you said bat at first. I was like,
take a bath. Yes, take a bath. Bath. British English doesn't work here.
Sorry.
Bath, and after taking a bath, come to me. Come see me, but do not wear anything.
Wait, who's saying this? This Draupadi saying this?
Gandhari said. So mom is telling to his son.
Okay, so Gandhari is saying this to Duryodhan.
Duryodhan, right? Everyone's dead, and she doesn't want him to die. I mean, she still has the heart of a mom, right? She has a heart of a mom. She's seen 100 sons die, right? Yeah. In this war, 14-day war, 14-day war, 100 sons have died. Duryodhan's the only one left, and she knows that you are going to kill him. You said that. You said you swore on him, I'm going to kill all of you, right? You did kill Dushasana as well. Already has happened, right? So you tear him apart.
You gotta see that scene.
Yeah, you tear him apart in reality. And Krishna, he's the man behind, he's the puppeteer essentially.
Okay.
So he knows that something's up. So when Duryodhan is, after taking a bath, he's going to see his mom in the camp, right? So they are fighting in the war field. The Gandhari and Dhritarashtra are away from the battlefield in a camp. So he's going from the battlefield to see his mom in the camp at night. So back in the day, they used to fight during the day. Once the sun set, fighting would stop. Armies would go to camp.
Right? Ancient Greek or ancient battlefields, because you can't see anything at night.
Exactly. It's the same thing.
It's not like we have lights. Like anyway, it's a whole.
There's no light. There's no night
that's
vision
like
goggles.
very modern, really.
Right,
like that for a long time. There was no fighting at night.
So when he's walking away, Krishna knows that he's going to go to Gandhari, and Gandhari will open her eyes and basically see him up top to down, and essentially will give him special powers, which will make his...
Oh, because she's going to take her blindfold off.
Blindfold off and give him special powers through her eyesight, where it'll basically make his body make of stone, and he won't, nothing will hurt him.
Yeah.
So then... but Krishna intervenes, runs interference in this story, and he's like, "What? You want to go to your mom? Are you not going to wear anything? Are you nuts?" No, man, cover yourself. At least cover your private parts.
Yeah,
right? Like put a banana leaf or something.
Yeah, around your thigh.
Around your thighs. So he puts a banana leaf around his thighs.
Yeah. So that's the other thigh thing.
That's exactly. So when Duryodhan did this, the thigh action comes it on my thighs.
Yeah.
That same action is repeated by Krishna when you are fighting Duryodhan in the final fight, the final boss essentially, right?
Yeah.
and you are not able to get to him. You're hitting him, but everything is made of stone. Essentially, that's the story, right? Like you're hitting him. He's not dying. Nothing's happening to him.
Yeah.
And then you're fighting with a Gada mace, right? With the actual Gada mace. Big mace. You guys are both going at each other.
Yeah.
And then finally, Krishna tells you by doing this scene, saying,
but it's
hit him
illegal.
On his thigh.
Is that true in the Mahabharata?
Yeah, so they had that. They had those rules set, right? Those rules set. But Krishna is the god, so he skirts around those rules, right? If he were to fight in that in the story, then he would have won. But that's why he says,
it's a good lesson. It is a good lesson in like, if there is an evil character
in Love and War.
Yeah, exactly. Like at some point, if you're not gonna win and you're the good guy, I don't know.
Right. All's fair in Love and War. That's essentially
you gotta
the story.
do what you gotta do. You gotta hit the guy between the thigh.
Yeah, right. and you see that in multiple aspects of it. My character, that's how I die, right? Krishna just comes in, and Krishna and Arjuna, they all come in to me and ask me, how do we kill you? Because I'm invincible.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to want to die. Basically.
I have to say that I'm gonna die now. Right. I've been given that power.
Yeah.
And I tell them.
It's basically out of love. You die out of love, right?
I do. I don't want this war to happen. I just don't want the war to happen.
Is it romantic love that's like why you choose to die because of Amba?
I would say that it is a lot of regret that is.
Well, I mean, it's a combination of things, but I mean, like you let that particular character kill you because you're in love with her. I
think I have.
Or you feel bad. Oh, it's because you feel bad of what happened to her.
I feel regret for what happened to Amba.
I see. We won't reveal that part.
Right. So I feel regret. I mean, it's one of the main deaths of the story.
Okay. Yeah,
so but even then, if you think about it, the guy who's pulling the character in the back is Krishna. Krishna and Arjuna are the ones. Arjuna is the one who actually shoots the actual arrow.
Yeah.
But Krishna is the one. He's like, shoot, go ahead. He's done.
Interesting.
Does the same thing with Karna. Karna's wheel in the story, his chariot wheel gets stuck, and when he gets off his chariot wheel, he's unarmed and he's not fighting, and he says, "This is honor and duty. You're not supposed to kill me." And Krishna's like, "Go for it."
Interesting.
So Karna, Bhishma, and Duryodhan are the three main characters on Kaurva's side. Yeah. There's one more, Drona, who was the master at arms who basically taught these kids how to fight.
Both of them. Yeah.
Both Pandavas and Kauravas. And he is also killed in a conspiratorial fashion, or by
kind of a lie.
Kind of a lie.
We'll leave that one a little vague.
Yeah, kind of a lie. But Drona, I would call him kind of like the master at arms, or the chief commander.
He reminds me of Nestor, kind of.
Oh, is it? Tell me more about Nestor.
Well, he's just like this, although there's a little difference, but he's like this wise advisor, and he to the Greeks, and he's just but he's old. He is older though. He's like the above generation old in terms of the warriors. So he's a little too old to fight much. He has a son who fights.
Okay.
So he's more of an advisor. Drona's more of an actual fighter.
Yes.
But Nestor is, the idea is that he's still this, great wise warrior that everyone looks up to. And I just get the similar feel, so I want to talk a little bit more. I want to finish up the story itself, and then I want to talk to you about like the cultural meaning to you growing up, and then a couple other things like that.
Sure.
That's
I'm talking about the main characters right here that people will see. Duryodhan, Karn, Bhishma, Dushasan, or Dushasana. I mean, I should pronounce it the way we're going to pronounce it on stage. Dushasana.
I noticed like there's not an A.
I mean, typically in I guess the Sanskrit or the Hindi pronunciation is not without an A, but here
it's Arjun.
Arjun, but
in Sanskrit is how you would.
Or we're saying Arjuna just to.
But
make
when
it
you
easier.
say Arjuna.
Yeah, you can say Arjun or Arjuna. I think would be appropriate.
But why? Well, that's another.
I have no idea how that.
Probably all dialects moving in and out and telling the same story.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
So I mean, maybe more of the British translation. I think that's got
some. Because it's the British.
Yes,
Blame
they're
the
always
British.
the British. They're always the British, right? They're always there. So
there was I was trying to think like there's something about Don Quixote.
I'm
doing. Do you know this?
I don't know. I mean,
this is the British fault again. So Don Quixote, I'm doing a I have something called the Literary Canon Club, which is a paid book club that I do. And we're doing Don Quixote. And the reason that there's an X in the, it's Quixote, is because when Cervantes was writing in Castilian in 1605, it kind of makes its way over to Britain. I don't remember the exact date. By the time the printing at that time in there, I guess the h sound, because of Quixote, the hot sound was X. It was like, it looked like an S, and there's some weird mix up. So in England for hundreds of years, it was Don Quixote. Oh. And there's still people, so there's a lecturer that I was listening to in some course I was taking a while back, and he was like, when I was growing up, it was Don Quixote. But again, it's just all the British fault. So that kind of like spread, because that's not how you would spell it if you were to transliterate it, right? It would be with a J or something. Like that. Anyway, so the British ruin everything.
Oh, okay. I love the British.
I love the English. I love English. I'm just kidding.
I'm also kidding as well.
But yeah, go ahead. Sorry. So another tangent.
Yeah. Well, this if you were to read the Mahabharata, I mean, there will be so many tangents because, again,
it's part of the story. Yeah,
part of the backstory of all the characters, right? Yeah. So we covered the Kauravas here, right? We covered the main characters: Drona, Bhishma, Duryodhan, Dushasan, and Karan, right? The 5 main characters people will see, the bad guys.
Yeah.
The good guys now are Yudhishthir, the guy who gambles stuff away. Bhim, next in line. Bhima. Arjun or Arjuna, right? Who is he's such a good, I guess, archer. And we show that. That's also a very good story. Very famous story. Our version of our play, what we've done, I think we've done a really good job of putting the main incidents of Mahabharata.
That people would know about if they've read it or like grew up with it. It's like, oh, there's that moment.
That's correct. And that's what people will see on stage. The real significant moment that people know about, the game of dice, or why Arjuna was such a good archer, where when he's shown a target, he only sees the eye of the target and nothing else. Everyone else, like you, when you're shown, you're like, oh, I see everything around it. Yeah. My brother, and
do you see your brother?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I'm trying to do it like that.
So
it's my fine acting skills.
Because that's not your weapon. Your weapon is the other
that big club.
Yeah, you are a powerful guy. I mean, you're not the archer surgeon kind of a guy. You go and destroy things.
I'm not precise.
Yeah, you go and destroy
hit stuff and not
destroy things.
It's like a big brute. So I guess
that is exactly true. You're a big brute, big guy who moves stuff. But Arjun is the archer.
Yeah.
And Arjun and Krishna have that relationship of a pupil and a teacher as well. That's the Gita. That's what they show.
Yeah.
And we've shown that as well, part of the the Gita sermon on the battlefield. And then on the other side, I guess Pandava's side, we also have Nakul and Sahadev. They are twins. Their character is not very well developed, at least in the story as well. That's what we're showing. So the 3 main characters,
they focus on Bhima,
Yudhishthir, Bhima, and Arjuna, and then obviously Draupadi is also shown as a main character as well.
She's like a Helen of Troy.
Really, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
She does, like, she figures she's not the same, but there are certain similarities in the way she's used and how it's the cause of this massive war.
Yeah.
Right? And
you say that. Actually, a lot of folks will people will come with pitchforks that you're making someone a cause of the character or cause of the war.
Well, it's not her fault.
It's not her fault, yes.
Yeah, like, is it Helen's fault in the Iliad?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I think it's more Paris. I think it's more, other people, other characters that are, it's not like she's taking action herself too much. And she's controlled by a goddess who's like making her do this. And she's but with Draupadi, like, she is the fundamental it's not her action that's a cause, but it's because of her.
Yeah, it started out because that, hey, I'm gonna take revenge. You can obviously, Duryodhan says, I'm gonna take revenge on your on your husbands.
Yeah.
And because he gets cheesed off by what she said to him, right? That's I mean, yeah, if you want to look at it that way, you can, but I don't think she's the cause of Mahabharata as such, right? I wouldn't go there. That is of the war, right?
Wait, what does the word mean, Mahabharata?
Mahabharata, I think, okay, this is the cultural significance of it, because it's associated with that great war that happened over for 15 days. You can even use the word, people do use the word as a verb, right? Like, if 2 people are fighting or there is a big argument going on between, let's say, two people, two parties. You can even say, man, there's a Mahabharata going on in their house over this topic, right? Let's say if, something is happening. There's Mahabharata going on because it's like, oh man, these have a great argument going on as well. The literal translation of Mahabharata would be Great India, but I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the name of the epic, that's the literal.
Well, I mean, Iliad is the Troy, right? It means Ilium. So
right. So Mahabharata would be Great India. I mean, that's essentially the name of the I guess the epic, right? So.
Okay.
So we've covered most of our
the story
bad characters and the good characters, right? So Kunti, we'll see her on stage as well.
Yeah.
And
she's
I think
the mother of the Pandavas.
Mother of the Pandavas.
And also, well, we won't say it, although I think we already said it, but.
Right. And the story is being written by, or was written by Vyasa, who's the sage who wrote the story.
Is he Pandu's father?
No, I believe so, right? I think he's somehow related.
He's like, because I thought he was the patriarch of both parties or something like that.
Yes, that's correct.
And so he must be the father, Dhritarashtra and Pandu or something.
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
I could be wrong, but I thought he must be that. And then he comes in. So he's in our story, played by Ev Lunning, a fantastic actor.
Oh,
and then he's telling his story to a little girl. Is that in the Mahabharata?
I think that might be a little bit of a Peter Brooks.
Okay, that's just kind of a narrative tool to help put it together.
Right.
So that's happening, and that's kind of narratively structuring the little snippets of story that we're getting from this massive, 10 times the size of Iliad,
longest epic ever told.
Yeah, so it's like you need something to kind of structure it.
That's correct.
For a shorter version.
That's correct.
And that's what this is.
Yeah. So Vyasa is the main character that starts it all, and so you'll see the I think Vyasa was the one writing it. Wasn't that King? No, King Shantanu is my father. Sorry, I was confusing him.
Vyasa can't write.
Yeah. Vyasa cannot write.
Yeah, his first line of the play.
That's correct. He's getting it written by Lord Ganesha, right? Who also is another, has a story of his own. We learn about that as well.
Yeah.
He's the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati.
Yeah.
We have that story.
He's a god.
He's also a god. Yeah.
Yeah. He's an actual god. Vyasa's not a god. Now, when we're talking about gods, all these people are essentially demigods, right? On some level?
But no, Ganesha is a god. Ganesha is given the god.
No, sorry, Ganesha is a god. I'm saying like
Krishna is a god. No. They are not demigods. They are humans. They're humans.
They're pure humans.
Pure humans. But that's actually a good point, right? What happens after the Mahabharata is over? We don't cover that, but there is in the mythology in the book, because they're humans, they're going to perish, right? All of us have a certain lifespan. The key point here in that story is not Dhritarashtra. I keep forgetting his name. Your elder brother, Yudhishthir. Yudhishthir's
a lot of names.
Yeah, Yudhishthir's story is he never tells a lie, and he doesn't, right? Yeah. Because he's true to dharma, right? He's like, I will never tell a lie. I've always been truthful, and he keeps that promise throughout his life because he said he's the son. He's a boon by the Lord Dharma, right? Or Dharma, right? So he's part of that, or his lineage is that. So at the end of his lifespan, he's the one who's invited into heaven with his humanly body, right? Otherwise, when we pass away, we leave our body behind, and our spirit is the one that goes away. But because he has been truthful all his life, he's the one who said, hey, come on in. You are allowed into heaven with your human body. And there's actually, I love this part of the story.
Okay.
I'm a huge dog lover. And when he's invited in, he has a dog with him. Okay. But dogs are not allowed in heaven, as a lot of people say that. And that's his pet dog, apparently. Or when he's walking up to heaven, and on the way he finds the dog, and he keeps him with him. When the dog is not allowed, he actually says, no, if the dog's not allowed, then I'm not going to go in.
To heaven?
To heaven. He refuses heaven because of his love for dog. And then later on, it's revealed that it was a test by the Dharma God, and to see if you're actually true to yourself till the end.
Oh, got it.
That someone who's been with you on this journey, are you going to let him there? And I'm like, man, dogs are true souls. That's true. They should be allowed in heaven,
Well, I have a dog too downstairs. Right. I love dogs. I'm with you.
So this is part of my...
That's interesting. Yeah. Because there's something like that not like that, but there's a famous dog in the Odyssey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So like when Odysseus comes home, he's disguised as a beggar. And come home to Ithaca, where he's been gone for 20 years, and you have a wife who is weaving to deceive all these suitors, which again reminds me a little bit of Draupadi.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like they're trying to get her, but she's deceiving them through this endless weave of a shroud for Odysseus' father. Who hasn't died yet, but she's preparing the shroud. I mean, I couldn't imagine this one person preparing a shroud for me, and I'm not dead yet. It's like, all right, hold on, lady, I'm not there yet. But but anyway, so Odysseus comes home. He's disguised as a beggar, and there's a dog that's been there for 20 years, and the dog recognizes him and dies. And every time I go through this book where I teach it to people, they will say that they're so sad they'll cry sometimes. It's very poignant.
Right.
Like, gotta love dogs.
Yes, gotta love dogs. And actually, it's in the book as well. I mean, it's in the epic as well, where the man's like, "Hey, I'm not gonna go into heaven till my dog comes with me." And I think that was it's a very
heaven
beautiful.
Would be a lot better if you had your dog.
Absolutely, it shows.
Without a dog, that would suck.
I would.
Cats everywhere.
Oh no,
Cats are fine.
Cats are fine. Cats are
I
good.
like cats. I had a cat when I was a kid.
Cats are good as well. So, but I mean, I find that part of the story it's like really appealing to me, like very touching to me, at least as far as the relationship between a dog that you find while you're walking to heaven. Essentially, that's what it is, right? Everyone, all his, Draupadi, Bhima, Arjuna, they all perish on the way because they've all had sins, so they're not allowed to go with their humanly form into heaven, except for...
I have a question, and then I do want to talk about our show, why people should see it, because you should learn about the Mahabharata tales, by all the tales, and it's an interesting, engaging story. But there's some specific reasons, I think, to also engage with our production of it. But I have a question about the story that I was listening to this podcast series that I shared in our WhatsApp group. I can't remember the guy's names. Sumpta.
I haven't heard, but, so I can't help.
So he's talking about this reincarnation issue with, I think, Arjuna, right? I think... and I may be misremembering this, but it's something along, because there's, obviously in the mythology, there's reincarnation's a big part of
right.
And so the whole point of the reincarnation philosophy and our theology is that you get to a point where you get to Yudhishthira's level, right? Eventually, is that correct? I
myself, I'm not familiar with that, so I don't
never
know.
mind. But
don't know what's possible.
There's nothing about in karma, that's not part of the theology of.
No, I mean reincarnation is, I guess, part of the.
But is there not an end goal of coming back over and over again?
No, the end goal is to break away from the cycle of rebirth.
Yeah. So isn't there something? Again, I'm very ignorant about this. I know very.
So it might be that you get to the level of Yudhishthira, so that you can then go to the next level with your human body.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because isn't karma the whole idea of what you do will affect your afterlife and what you come back, right?
That's correct. Right.
So there's something he was taught in this podcast and other places I've been reading. He was talking about that's part of the Arjuna and the 5 Pandava brothers are reincarnations of some demigod or something like that, some other characters, and that come back every several generations, and that's part of the Mahabharata tales.
Right. So my I guess my understanding of the epic is just within that aspect of the story. That is, as I mentioned earlier, right? The story has evolved over a period of generations, right? Over 1,000 years, right? All mythology, all mythology.
Always.
So I'm sure there is some aspect of it which it has connected.
Okay, so you don't know about because again, I'm just hearing this a little bit recently,
right,
as I'm learning. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So that's you're saying from what you know, that's not.
Yeah, So I would not be able to comment on.
Fair enough.
But there is one thing that I do want to bring about your character, and this is again we're not covering. This is side note. just like in Marvel universe and DC universe, it's like cross-pollination, or like you would say, oh, this is one of the episodes where two characters meet, like, Wolverine meets Deadpool, right? Like two characters meeting from two different storylines. So there is another epic in India, the Ramayana, right? Ramayana is a story about God as well. And one of the gods in there is Hanuman. He's supposedly Lord Hanuman. He's strong character. He's the way he's depicted is through a monkey form, right? He has a monkey face, kind of just like Ganesha has an elephant face.
Got it.
But it's really, really strong character, or really, really strong character in there. Can move mountains on his shoulder, right? So literally he does that for Lord Ram. He moves a mountain over from Himalaya to Sri Lanka. But again, that's just part of mythology.
Hercules did that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? So in Mahabharata, your character, Bhim, actually runs into Hanuman. But it's not, Mahabharata is after Ramayana. If you look at the timeline, Ramayana has already happened. A few thousand years have passed, and that's when Mahabharata took place, right? So it's not, so they are not
they're not together.
They're not together. In the chronology of timeline, they're far apart. But Hanuman, since he's a god, he's been given the role of protecting planet Earth. So he never leaves planet Earth. So he's supposedly living here. And your character runs into an old monkey-like or situation, I think, and I don't remember this because I saw this when I was watching those 93 episodes, and it was one of the famous ones. And Hanuman has a huge tail, and you come in and you're kind of like, move out of my way. And this old Hanuman character, the monkey says, just move this, and you can jump over it or move it.
Move the tail.
Yeah, move the tail, and you're like, oh, man, I can lift 1,000 pounds, no problem, right? Whatever it is. So you try and move his tail, and you just can't because he's God. So I think, exactly. Thor's hammer, nobody can pick up. Exactly. So you can't move his tail, and then finally you have your humbling saying, okay, who are you, boss? Tell me. And that's when Hanuman reveals himself and says, I'm Lord Hanuman. So that's a way of, again, your strength cannot take care of everything in the world, right? There's always a bigger fish. There's always a bigger
fish.
So that's one, again, in an arc that happens.
That's why, it's interesting because like in Marvel, the two, I think, most popular characters are Iron Man, who's human, but he has this outward strength. Right. And Captain America, probably. Right. Who's my favorite. But,
right.
But that's so they're very strong, but they're not necessarily the strongest.
Right.
And that's not their main feat.
If you want
the strongest is not always the most popular. Although in Greek mythology, I think Hercules is known as the pan-Hellenic hero. So he's the hero that all the Greek tribes around the Mediterranean admired and called their own in a sense, versus like other ones. It's like, oh, that's from Mycenae, that's from Cretan or something. Anyway, go ahead.
So I was going to say that Captain America, he's supposedly a very principled man.
Yeah, that's why it's great.
Right, and Yudhishthira would be kind of like that if you think about it.
Okay,
he's very principled.
So
does not tell a lie.
Like he won't swear.
Won't swear.
Yeah, he doesn't
Yudhishthira is like that.
God's name in vain. He's old school kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of like that. You could
Captain
draw
America
a
charming.
You could draw a parallel there.
Yeah, he's like
very principled. Two principled people.
Yeah.
Two principled.
But they're in like almost a different time, and they're forced into these situations where they have to make more modern decisions.
Right. Obviously, Yudhishthira has a character flaw that he loves gambling.
I mean, what happens with all mythology is they're going to be used by the current regimes for whatever purpose they want.
Right.
So, when you have the Roman Empire, you have a new Caesar and a new empire, they enact a whole new set of stories based on the Greek. It's Virgil's Aeneid, and there's all different, like the gods are a little bit different. There's a lot of different, the whole structure of it changes quite a bit. And it's a little bit, and I assume that's going to happen in every mythology, including Indian.
And
so Yudhishthira might be different. Like Captain America now is definitely different than he was in 1950.
Correct.
Like the 1960s versions or whatever.
Correct.
And in 2050, Captain America might be some goth girl or something. I don't know.
I'll never know, right?
Which is fine.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I think it's definitely a retelling of the story, and the retelling of the story gets a little bit of the current environment, if you will. Parts of that, or whichever era that you're in. It influences that retelling of the story.
Yeah, your version is like that you were raised in the 90s.
Right.
That is a particular, like he's the writer and creators of that are in the Indian culture at that time.
Right.
I'm sure there's a newer one.
That
is like after this economic revolution.
Right.
And now that's going to have different connotations and different vibes, and it's going to emphasize, don't be too greedy. We're getting wealthier, but don't like. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying, like, you might want to emphasize different values in this new society.
Right. I mean, I think the values probably would be the same, but the telling and the stylizing of the story is different because for example, your character in my time was just a huge guy, right? The actor who played, he was actually a wrestler, right? He was kind of like an old school wrestler kind of a guy. And
I could have a leotard.
Yeah. But now in today's day and age, it would be a huge guy who's also very cut.
Right? Yeah. No, right? I mean, with Bollywood and Hollywood.
Hollywood kind of a guy.
That's all that it's.
The special effects would be a lot different, right? Special effects would be a lot different. And then there are certain aspects of the characters, as you said, they would be changed to highlight. Maybe Karna, for example, he's a gray character. He knowingly gives his shield away because he says, "Okay, Mom, you're asking me for my shield. You're asking me for my earring." And then he promises his mother that after this is done, you'll have the same number of sons, that either me or Arjuna are going to live, because he hates Arjun, right? Arjun and him are kind of like sworn enemies because they all want to do better than each other.
Yeah.
As they had a childhood rivalry who's a better archer.
Yeah, isn't it something about Drona and who Drona's best student is, right?
So, yeah.
Because he's going to go to teach Karna, but he's forbidden because there's a prophecy that he has to teach Arjuna, who's the greatest warrior. And so if he takes Karna on as the greatest warrior, then it's a contradiction, and so he decides not to.
Right, and also Karna was not supposedly of royal birth. Right, so exactly.
I was listening to some podcasts.
Yeah, that is knowledge, more knowledge than I have. But from what I know
maybe
of,
I'm wrong.
I'm not going to say
that's also
you're wrong.
Podcasting.
you are more on topic or current with the retelling of the story than I am, because I'm remembering from my childhood the stories that I remember.
Let's talk about real quick the show itself that we're doing.
Yes.
So we've already talked about, like, it's truncated, it's just 2 hours. But one reason I think everyone should know a little bit about this backstory, or it helps. I don't think you need to know it, but I think it helps. But that'll help you have an experience, because there's going to be there's like a traditional Indian dancer.
Right.
What's the dancer?
Kathak dancer.
So Kathak. Right. So we're going to have, so the show that we're in is going to feature a Kathak dancer. What is that?
I think so. We talked about this when we talked about the dance form. So Kathak as a dance form is retelling of stories through dance, right? And majority of those stories that are told are from the Mahabharata, and it is through the expression and action of the dancer, where the dancer will portray different characters from the Mahabharata.
It looks really cool.
And
I've only seen a little bit
amazingly,
of it.
Once you know.
Because she went like this at one point.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, I know that.
Exactly.
And so she has like this whole movement. She has like a Bhima movement.
There you go.
I think it's like, oh, that's Bhima. I was like,
so that might be the fight between Bhima.
So she's like representing all the story in a dance.
Right, not all the stories, parts of the story, because it's a huge epic.
But I'm saying, like,
that dance form where she does this and a Bhima thing, that might be the fight between Duryodhan and
exactly,
and
yeah.
Bhim,
so she's
right?
kind of like representing.
So she might represent that, so actually, it's part of the show. So definitely, I would say come and watch that. And we also have a live tabla player and a sitar player. Tabla player, just kind of like drums, right?
Yeah,
so tabla, Indian.
but with his fingers.
Yeah, so tabla player, we have a tabla player giving background music, and that's a sitar.
Sitar, yeah.
Right, the string instrument. So we do have.
Andy plays that in The Office.
And he'll play.
Do you know The Office, the TV show?
Oh, yeah.
Andy plays this in one. I'm obsessed with it. I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious.
So
yeah, I think at one of the Christmases, Andy plays a sitar.
Yes, and I remember that, right?
Yeah.
So
Moroccan Christmas.
Moroccan.
Yeah, that's what it was.
I
know too much about this.
Even I know too much. I've seen it too many times. Hopefully, people come and see our show.
Yeah, I think our show is a lot of fun because, again, and if you know a little bit of the backstory, you know like why we hate each other.
Right.
Because we put that all in the story, and Anne is working with all of us to make sure that it's all very clearly conveyed to somebody who does not know the story. That's the goal, is that someone who's never heard of this story can walk up and get a sense of the tale and hopefully want to learn more. Right. But I think if you know more, it'll be even better because you can, have an understanding of Bhima's hatred, that, it's clear what's going on, but there's like even more backstory. The thigh thing, like all that stuff, will pop more if you know a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that in the story you see those characters interact with each other, right? It's an ensemble of cast. But why is this one character talking to the other one, right? For example, you talking to Dushasan, or you and Bhima fighting with Duryodhan. I mean, there's that rivalry of big, huge guys fighting with each other, right? Karna and Arjun having that rivalry, right? And we see that. Where did it come from?
But where does it come from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as children, they wanted to be the better archer. Who's the better archer?
Yeah.
I'm the better archer. And I will tell in a scene to Karn, hey,
you Bhishma.
Yeah, Bhishma will say to Karn, you are as good as Arjun. Because Arjuna is the supreme archer, right?
During the war.
During the war, the last scene of last few dialogues, as I'm passing away, I know it's a spoiler, that I will tell him, hey, you are as good as Arjuna.
Can I ask you something about the series you watched as a kid?
Right.
So did you know the story basically? So that's how
I was too young. I was too young to know the story. I knew a little. I mean, I was 8 years old at that time. 8 or 9 years old.
So that was your introduction.
So that was my introduction, and I got hooked onto it.
Yeah.
And I've and then I've read like comic books. Bhima has a lot of stories as well as the childhood. I mean, now obviously there are offshoots of it, right? Like, childhood Bhima, or like they call it Bal Bhima or something like that, right?
What do they call it?
Bal Bhim means child Bhim, right? So they have
Bal Bhim.
Yeah.
It's like the Adventures of Bhima.
Adventures of Bhima as a kid. Adventures of Bhima as a kid. Adventures for kids, right? So
what'd you say? Poor kid?
For kids.
For kids.
For kids, right? So there are books written on this. There are lots of books written on the cartoon. It's actually a cartoon adventure of childhood, or Bhima's childhood. Right?
Yeah,
that's how I would say.
Interesting.
And one thing, by the way, about your character, which you portray really well, Bhima is quick to anger.
Oh, okay.
Bhima is quick to anger. You're like, man, don't mess with me, right? Because you know you're strong, right? And that comes across.
I just channel all the gym bros I've ever met.
Like, roid it up.
Dude, chill out. But that's how I just channel that.
Yeah, you do a pretty good job of that. So I mean, I think that's something that people should come and check out as well. That the character was quick to anger, and you want to take.
Well, and the Pandaval brothers take off all their clothes apparently, which is
that's the other part of it that people should come and watch. Hey,
I don't know how much clothes we have not. No one has told us how much clothing we're actually taking off, but during the bedding scene,
you lose everything. Literally losing your clothes.
So it's like, and it says take your clothes. It's like, how much clothes, Anne, are we taking off? She's like, oh, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll figure it out. I want to know. Like, do I need to starve myself for the next 2 weeks?
Thankfully, I'm 200 years old and I don't have to take off any clothes. So I'm good about that.
You're in charge.
Yeah. I mean, and so my death, the gory details of my death, which everyone knows, by the way, that Bhishma dies on a bed of
your death. Yeah.
On a bed of arrows. There is a significance behind that as well, which we should talk about, right?
Okay.
That in the story, once I fall in the battlefield, I don't really die because I don't want to die, right? I'm going to choose my time of death, so I want to see it through. And but Imagine lying on a bed of arrows, essentially with arrows going through your body, and you fall over, and that's what the bed of arrows represents.
Oh, basically, he's skewered with arrows.
I'm skewered with arrows, and I fall over. In the real story, I fall over, and then I'm just lying on the bed of arrows, and those arrows are Arjuna's.
Yeah,
Arjuna
so you're
is the
just
guy
in
who does
pain.
that. I'm in pain for 51 days or something like that.
Because you can feel pain.
Yes, I cannot. So that there is some significance behind that as well. Is why did Bhishma suffer so much?
Yeah,
and it's I guess the story is that he chose wrong. He chose Kaurva's side.
Oh, because he chose the wrong side.
He chose the wrong side. He knew. I mean, I know that what Kauravas are doing are wrong. Like, hey, you need to give them their kingdom back. What you did to Draupadi or Dushasan does to Draupadi is wrong. I should not be doing that.
Yeah.
But I still chose wrong.
You took the wrong side.
I chose the wrong side. So I'm punished for my bad karmas in this sense. Even though I lived a righteous life most of my life, I had the Bhishma Pratagya, which is the Bhishma vow. Which is, by the way, it's actually a pretty significant vow. Even now, you can use it in cultural form in India, where like, oh, I'm taking the Bhishma vow means it's an unbreakable vow. I'm going to go to the gym every day.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that vow now because I'm going to break it in one day.
So, yeah, I'm always curious about this. So, like, you had heard about, but before you watched that series, when you were 7, 8 years old,
right? Yeah, right.
You had heard about Mahabharata, though, right?
Right, yes.
And some of the words, because you keep talking about like the Bhishma's a vow.
Right.
So it's made it into the language. So there are certain things that you probably don't remember this, you're too young, but there are certain things that are so culturally enmeshed.
Yes.
That they were part of seeing them, you'd heard of Bhima before.
Right.
There's no, like, you've probably seen images of Bhima before you saw the series.
Right.
Same thing with Bhishma and all the main characters. They were probably everywhere.
Right.
And I always try to convey this to people about these cultural epics and mythology. It's like the people that are experiencing them and like Homer and or Virgil, the audience is really familiar, even if the story itself is a little newer. And really, the story is probably not that new. It's just kind of some manipulation of common stories. But they're really the culture that it's coming out of is really enmeshed in these stories. And so your culture would have been you would have heard about, oh, he's as strong as Bhima. Right. And like in great,
he's as strong as Bhima.
Yeah, like when you were 6 years old, you might have heard your brother called that, or you were called that, or something like.
Absolutely.
Oh, you're going to be a big Bhima or something.
That
and so it's part. So when you see it, even though that was the first time you'd really heard the actual stories in detail, it was all part of what you grew up with.
That is correct, and I think, and that's why I think it's important, for people. And I know a lot of my friends who are coming to the show are bringing their kids along because they have read these books.
So it's just it's a telling for them to see.
And then now they get to experience it on stage.
Yeah.
And generation after generation gets to do the same thing. It's the same story that is told again and again. As I said, my generation was the first one to actually see it on television. And after that, the 90s has its own version. The 2000s have its own version. What's that?
You saw it in the 80s.
I saw it in like 88, 89.
88.
Right?
Sorry, I kept saying.
Yeah, so I'm giving my age away, but I'm 256 years old, so it doesn't matter. So every generation gets to. It's a retelling of the same story over and over again. And as you were talking about it, I really thought about it. I'm like, in today's day and age, in the modern times, what would be a story that people want to show? It's Star Wars, right? Or Marvel, right? Or if you were to take about the 90s kids, it would be, I would say, this is just mine, 95 Jurassic Park. That the first time you see, a dinosaur come alive on screen. And that's why these franchises have kept going, because
they get you
people have seen them and now they want their kids to see them. So, but they, instead of telling the same story, they make the changes all over again. I bet you Harry Potter is going to be remade in maybe another decade or so.
No, it's being remade right now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, into a TV series. I think it's coming out like in a year or two.
Yeah, and it is part of that whole cultural thing that we're talking about. Here, the artistic license doesn't exist because people are so aware of the story that you can't go and be like, we're gonna make Bhima an archer and Arjuna the big guy. You can't really make that kind of changes because people are so familiar with it. So you say the same story all over again, but with other of these, they don't have, I guess so much of a cultural significance that you can change it. But with Harry Potter, I don't think they're going to change the main story. I mean, it's been set in stone kind of a deal.
Well, but J.K. Rowling could do that if she wanted.
Yeah, if she wants.
Because she copywritten it. Like, that's her story. Right. So that's one of the interesting things. There's definitely differences because, to me, it's more like the Marvel DC characters, just because I think that what's significant about these kind of mythologies is how ubiquitous in the culture they are. Yes. Where, like you're saying, you talk about a Bhishma or a Mahabharata that they're having within the family. You're right, where they're
it's
fighting.
Kind of used as a verb as well.
Yeah, right? It's used as a verb.
Two factions in a family are fighting.
But I'm just saying, what I'm saying is that happens in the culture because it's such a powerful, a long-standing story that's told over and over again for thousands of years.
That's correct.
And the closest we have today is either, I think, Christian mythology in America or Marvel.
Right.
That's ubiquitous. Where it's like you would have grown up before you knew how to read.
Yeah.
You would have heard about Jesus, even if you're not in a Christian household.
That's
probably. True. It's or Santa Claus.
Right.
So and you'd have some kind of idea about it, even if you're not.
It's very Christian. Parallel to that. It's very, very parallel to that. Where you have these stories that your parents are very familiar with, and even before, as you said, you can read. You're told those stories, right? Or you're told parts of that story that you should be as strong as Hercules, or you should be like Captain America, even though you don't get a Captain America shield. There's first, and then you see it.
Where Bhima, I'm breaking wood. I'm like, I want to break wood like Captain America does in that one. I can't remember which one it was. You know what I'm talking about? Where he's like, they're like the Avengers have gone off.
The one where they fight off. I guess is that the one?
I don't remember which one it was. Maybe the one with the robot voice or whatever. But anyway, so they're out there and they're pissed at each other, and Tony Stark and Chris and Captain America. And then Captain America is chopping wood.
Yeah.
And then he rips one open. I was like, yes, I want to do that.
Yeah, you do. I totally would be.
Yeah, that's come on, Anne. Let's get some wood for me to.
That is true. Show your real strength on stage.
Yeah, that's a real strength.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun show, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time. Okay, so let's get your last thoughts about the show, or anything you wanted to say about growing up with this, what it means to you, anything like that.
For me, being part of the show has been great, right? Bringing Bhishma to on screen has been great, because growing up, I have an image of how Bhishma was. Obviously, I'm not inspired by it. I'm inspired by that, but it's my own version of Bhishma that I'm bringing up on stage. The cast that we have for the show is just fantastic. There's all really good, great actors, not good. And I'm very excited to work with Anne as well for the first time. So this is my debut with Austin Shakespeare. So I'm excited about that. And I would like people to come and watch us perform on stage. This is going to be a great show, and I can't wait till our first show on the 14th.
February 14th. Yes. Yep. Yeah. So I don't have anything else to add. I think that was fun. I'll see about for me, what's been really interesting is I've been studying mythology for a long time, and I read the Iliad on my own. It wasn't part of culture. I just got obsessed with the Iliad at 10 years old. And learning about a new mythology and how it enters into a culture is really enlightening and very interesting. And I really want to study a little bit more the interplay, the historical interplays between the West and India, because I am the more I learn about it, and there's parallels, interesting, the Draupadi thing, I'd like to know the original texts, and or not original texts, because there's not I don't know if there's an original, is there a Homer in Mahabharata tales?
Because
the Homer character person is the one who it was an oratory tradition for hundreds of years before Homer. Homer takes those stories and crafts them into the Iliad, puts it down on paper, where it's that's kind of the official of that story a little bit, or that, section.
I think Vyasa would be that person, right? He's writing that story. He's a storyteller.
But is there a historical figure?
No,
okay. So Homer is like he could be a Vyasa type character, but he is presumed to be a real writer, like a human person who like this is the author of this tale. Okay. Is there an author of the Mahabharata?
Yes, Vyasa, right? So Vyasa
but he's a god.
No, Vyasa is not a god. He's a sage. He's a sage.
So it has more parallel with the Christian Bible. And
I would say so. I mean, I would say so. You definitely, right? Because there is, Christian Bible is Lord Jesus there, right? So in this case, it's Lord Krishna is there in it, but there are other characters around it. In
so I
it,
have a
right?
lot
So
to learn.
yeah. I mean, it's you go down that rabbit hole. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a deep dive for you to.
Oh sure, yeah. But I'm just curious, like the interplays, because like I said, I know that Alexander the Great went into India. I don't know how far he made it. So
I think he made it.
He was obsessed with Achilles and Iliad. Like he slept with it by his side, and I'm convinced that there must have been some interplay between the stories and maybe back and forth. I don't know. Because again, there are similarities between them. Even the Karna thing, where the thigh, there's the
Duryodhana.
Sorry, Duryodhana's thigh and being invincible everywhere. I mean, that's a later version of Achilles, so that's not in the Iliad. His Achilles heel, that's not in the Iliad.
Oh, it's not in the original.
No,
Iliad.
that's not in the Iliad. Everybody thinks it is, but it's a later telling, and. But there's something similar where his mother held him by the heel, or I think it's his mother, and dips him in this liquid that makes him invincible.
Very
but
similar.
Only his heel is not. And it's the same kind of thing. And so there's so many similarities. These cultures have to be, spreading and talking to each other, and there's this as a storyteller who's heard something that maybe originated from India, and a Greek storyteller saying something, or an Indian storyteller saying something that's.
I think that's a very interesting thought. I'm sure there is some cross-pollination that has occurred between the storytellers or between people who've crossed over, and how much of that is impacted. You never know. It would probably be a good research topic for someone who wants to do a PhD in history.
I'm sure it's been done. I mean, that's the. Hero with 1,000 Faces guy. I can't remember his name right now, but that's definitely been done.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious about it personally.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really, really good. I'm not that familiar with Greek mythology or the Greek, but I can draw parallels to the Mahabharata and the existing Marvel characters, for example. I'm familiar with those, or
Marvel, Captain America,
or Captain America, right? There you go. So, well.
All right. Well, Kumar Abhinav, thank you for coming, and you're welcome back anytime to chat more about Mahabharata tales and anything else you're interested in.
Thank you for having me. This was an awesome time. I enjoyed talking about Mahabharata, and I hope folks are going to come and watch it.
Yes.